I lead the Private Finance Sustainable Development Unit in the OECD, so in the Development Cooperation Directorate, essentially working on mobilising the private sector through blended finance and GSS bonds, so green, social, sustainable and sustainability-linked bonds. So in terms of the regulatory bottlenecks that we're seeing at the OECD in regards to public development banks, first we see at the international level. So that's in terms of Solvency II, for example, where there's a very high price for infrastructure investments in emerging developing countries. The view is that they're paying too a higher price for that infrastructure because of some of these regulatory barriers. Secondly, in terms of their own institutional capacity at a local level, that's in terms of policies, regulation. So that could be in terms of able to issue green, social and sustainable bonds from the public development bank to fund their activities. There needs to be a regulatory framework for that. There needs to be impact metrics. There needs to be capacity in the PDB to be able to issue thematic bonds to be able to fund their activities and tap institutional investors that want to have these green, social, sustainable and sustainability-linked bonds in their assets under management. The third area that we see is in terms of capacity in the institutions themselves. So being able to take risks, being able to have the right skill set, and to be having training to be able to work on innovative new instruments, to work with guarantees, to be able to price guarantees and work with regulators in your own domestic market to have guarantees, for example, in local currency, where we see a big blockage and much more need for that to occur. So the OECD DAC Blended Finance Principles, which were developed in 2017, we've just been issuing new guidance, which provides a new narrative for blended finance. So the previous guidance is 5 years old. So this allows DFIs and public development banks to look at the 5 principles and understand how to deliver those principles through the guidance. The guidance now includes much more around the private sector, elements that we've learned over the past 5 years in terms of financial additionality, development additionality, how to think much more about impact and tracking impact. And it gives a framework for development banks and DFIs to enter this space with confidence and able to have the right frameworks within their own organizations to look at off-grid investments, how to bundle those, for example, into a sizable project portfolio so that you can have institutional investors buy them up through blended finance. So it provides through the 5 principles, which are first one, development should be at the core, second one, crowding in, and then third one is a bit about the local context. Fourth one is working together, so the private sector with development actors, and the fifth is around transparency. So those have all been expanded over the past 5 years with added guidance, with new knowledge, with a rich base of case studies now, looking at the guarantees and how that's developed as an instrument, looking at areas such as securitization, and looking at how we can increasingly use blended finance in a local context. So providing blended finance in local currency formats that really will allow the public development banks to work with their own financing system, with their own sovereign wealth funds, with their own pension funds to mobilize domestic resources to invest in developing countries. So, I mean, they need to work more with their local financial systems and their regulators, but they need to take more risks. They need to have the confidence to be able to take risks on their balance sheet, and they need to use instruments that have shown that they can mobilize at scale and efficient from a balance sheet perspective and from a financial perspective, and which the private sector appreciates, which are guarantees. So I would encourage the use more of guarantees, including local currency guarantees.